good team, a smart team, will.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, great. So I think that's everyone that's been added in. Okay. So let's get started then. Are there any questions actually before I begin? No questions? Okay, all right, so let's get started. So today, as I said, you get your first homework assignment. I will post I will create a Dropbox later today on Brightspace. I'll create like a link in the first module. You'll see it. It'll be in your notebook.
The notes are right over there.
Oh, okay. I don't need to write anything down now.
The notes I printed out right there.
Microphones.
Because
it's all in there.
Yeah.
All right, so it's going to be on Brightspace. If you go to Brightspace, in the module called Input Processing and Output. Okay, so in Input Processing and Output, if you go there, in Input Processing and Output, you will find later today some kind of a link, and that's going to be the link that's going to be for the homework assignment. So you will have a week. So today I'm assigning, I will assign the homework today. It'll be due 1 week from today. So Thursday at 10 p.m. by 10 p.m. Okay, just remember that I believe Brightspace probably just like what was it? Blackboard before used to have the Eastern time, so it'll actually be due at 9. So just make sure you submit on time. Remember, homework assignments need to be submitted via Brightspace and on the date that is due. Late homework is not accepted. Okay, so the first homework should be very easy. You'll have a week for it. Today I'm going to today just walk you through kind of what I want you to do. So in your book, the Programming, Logic, and Design, if you're reading that, or if you have both books, whichever one, read both. So I will basically provide the problems. So I will attach some kind of a document on the link that has the problems that I want you to do. I may provide just all the problems, but then just make sure you read the instructions. It'll say just solve problems, 6, 7, whatever I choose to do. It's going to depend based on what I do today in class, because usually what I like to do is I like to take some of the problems, either debugging exercises or the programming exercises, and I solve them like on the whiteboard. And then we're going to take some time also, and I'll show you how to solve them in Python itself. And it should be pretty easy and pretty straightforward. We're also going to be doing flowcharts for this. So what I recommend with flowcharting, I don't really have a preference on how you do it. You can pretty much do them in Word if you'd like. That's perfectly fine. Word has a lot of shapes in there, so I assume you guys know how to use Microsoft Word. And if not, just do a quick video. I'm sure you'll figure it out. It's pretty easy, really pretty straightforward. So what you will do is, in Word, you're going to create the the flow chart. I will draw the flow charts today, kind of on the board, and then you can see how you would do them on your own, right? So really, it's about your thinking about logic. So learning by doing. So once you do them in Word, you can save them to PDF or however you want to do it. So what I'm going to ask you to do, is, for now, just create a report. That's probably the easiest thing. Later on, as you become, or if you'd like, you can. So let's just do this. Since you're going to be solving some of the problems with, on IPython or some Python editor, you can attach the IPythons, but if you do that, you have to create a zip folder, right? So you guys know zip folder. So you guys know what zip is, correct? And how to compress files, guys?
Yes.
Okay, great. Excellent. All right, so that's what I would suggest is, as far as what to submit for the homework, you're going to zip your files. Okay, so you're going to create a zip file, and the zip file should always contain a report. This report can be either, Word or PDF. Okay, either Word or PDF. That's fine. Do your flowcharts there on Word, and then the pseudo code you can pretty much do there as well. And then I would suggest that you also use Python to implement them and see their effect. Okay, so here you'll see me probably in the class today. Just do Jupyter Notebook. I will also show you how to use the Anaconda prompt today, and that's just another way of doing things. There's Spider there. You can try that one. We're not going to get into that one yet, so let's just keep it simple. And at some point, it'd be nice if you start using the notebooks, for like to document your homework and everything. But I'm not going to be grading this per se. I want to let it flow naturally and just see how you guys do things. So really, the only thing that I definitely need to see in your report for this first homework assignment is called homework 1, right? So the first thing I need to see for this homework assignment is either a Word document or a PDF, and then you can attach your files if you'd like, and submit everything as a zip file, okay? So that way, I will download it to my computer. Make sure everything that you do is readable, guys. So if you use a Mac, make sure that your Word document will open in Windows. So I will be grading everything in Windows, okay? So make sure everything will open there. Because, as I'm grading homework, if I can't grade it and I can't open it, I'm just gonna have to give you a 0 and move on to the next student. I can't. And then I might give you a chance to submit it again, but that's gonna delay your grade. So make sure before you submit anything, that it's gonna work. Okay, so so let's do that. So for now, make sure you put in a report. You can put screenshots of your code running. That's usually a good solution. Okay. And if you'd like, also, as I said, include the Jupyter notebooks or the scripts or the Python code. Either way, that's fine. Eventually, since you're learning all these tools right now, I don't want to be too strict about it. I just want to see how everyone is, the tendency of all of you you're going to have a tendency to go to the tool that you like the most. Okay. And so, we're going to be looking at that. One other thing that I might look at, I was thinking about adding a flow charting tool to to the Jupyter Notebook. I've looked at some tools out there. There seems to be some using Node.js. So we'll see about that. But I don't want to make this more complicated than it has to be for you guys. So really just, I believe the Word, creating figures in Word is, I use that all the time and it works just fine. So that should be okay. Does that make sense? What you need to submit for the homework, it's due you have 1 week. So this is very important. So it's going to be due the Thursday. It would be due, and all of that will be marked, of course, on the link, but it would be due September 10th, okay, by 10 p.m. Central Time. So you get 1 week, and really it's not going to be that much. Okay, so questions? Are there any questions? Everything clear? Everyone familiar with all these tools, correct? You've had a chance now to play with Anaconda, Jupyter Notebooks, Word. Now, the Python scripts that you're going to be writing are going to be so easy. So there's really nothing to worry about. But, if there are any questions, please, ask right now. We're also going to look at Turtle. Turtle is in your Python book. It's a library in Python. I'm not entirely sure what benefit you get out of it, to be honest. It seems more than anything, it just seems like a cute thing to try to do. But I'll show you. It'll motivate, I guess, a little bit of what you can do with Python. So we're going to play with that in a sec. Remind me. But but really the important thing right now is to get through some of the problems, okay? To get through some of the problems. All right. So are there any questions? Nope. Okay. All right, so let me do the course participation right now. I think today's the last day, and I just want to make sure that I'm going to take a picture of everyone in class. Okay. So let's go ahead. So I think then we're ready. As I said, usually the classes on Thursday will be like this, more relaxed atmosphere, and we're just going to solve problems. Okay, so there's a question in the chat. Yeah, so that, that's, I've said this before, it's very important that you put your name on this, because this is the only way that I'm keeping track of who's in the class. Okay. As long as you've been to most other classes, and your name was there when I took the roll in the picture, you should be fine. If not, really, you need to send me an email if you've been using like, iPhone 33 every time you logged in, and that's all I was able to record of you. You really need to send me an email, okay, and say, hey, I was present in all the classes, because otherwise I'm not gonna know how to mark you in that course participation, and I believe that affects your student scholarships and things like that. All right, so let's go ahead. I think I have to post that this Friday. I'm not entirely sure, but I believe it's due this Friday. All right, so let's get started then. If there are no further questions, I'm just gonna do a problem, okay? So what was the topic that we discussed this week? Let's start with that. What was the topic?
Like input output processing or
That's right,
something like
input
that.
output processing. It's really all it was, honestly, is the display pseudocode keyword and the input one, right? So that was really all that we used. We also used the set, and so that's kind of where we're going to start. We're just going to explore that. It's very easy, trivially easy. So I'm going to read a problem. Usually, this is how a homework assignment will work. I like, I know in the book there's like multiple choice. I'm not big on multiple choice and things like that. So, definitely read everything, right? You should be paying attention. Read the notes. But mainly, I like the problem. So it's going to be either algorithm workbench, or it's going to be debugging exercises, or it's going to be the programming exercises. So it's usually going to come from those. And there's so many of those that, we don't have time to go through all of them. So there's plenty, to be honest. Debugging ones are really nice because they give you, I find debugging ones almost like doing a puzzle. It's almost like a game where it just gives you some code, you know what the problem is, and then you're trying to find what is wrong with it. Okay, and so that makes, and sometimes it's not a syntax problem, but it might be a logic problem. And so it's even harder to spot, right? And that's what makes it pretty fun and interesting. But let me start with just a programming exercise, okay? Let me start with one of those. So this one is called personal information. So I'll just read them out loud. The video session should be recording. Pretty sure you guys can see if it is or not. And so you can always just listen to the video again, or if you want to hear the problem again. But here it is. So this is problem in your book is problem 1. Okay, and so the idea is of chapter 2. I should say we are in chapter 2. Just it's very obvious. All right, so personal information. You're going to design a program, your first program, right, that displays the following information. So it's going to display your name, your address with city, state, and zip code, your telephone number, and your college major. Okay, so you have to do that. So we're going to do that problem 1. So now the steps would be really, steps, are step 1. Let's call it A. Step A, B, and C. Okay. So step A would be, and before that, of course, think. Don't just start writing code, take a few minutes, think about it, picture it in your head, and then after that, you're going to write the pseudo code, right? The pseudo code. Then you're going to write the flowchart. As I said, you can use work, you do it by hand. Don't, well, I've had students in the past, and this is really funny, that they would come to class and just give me like what they drew on a notebook, right? So, and I accepted that actually, but we can't do physical copies, this semester, obviously. And so you're definitely obligated to use some software. So I think honestly the easiest is Word. Okay. So after that, after you've done the flow charting, then we're gonna do the actual code in Python. All right, and we're gonna open up our Jupyter Notebook there for that. So initially we gotta write, we can think of, do we write the pseudocode first? Do we write the flowchart first? That's really, a philosophy of people who program. As I said, most people, once you start to program a lot, you don't really use flowcharts that much. I mean, you're not going to practically write them. You might be creating flowchart in your mind, but nobody's going to, oh yeah, send me the flowchart. That's not, especially because the code. See, here's the thing. My feeling about flowcharts, the code is going to get so complex that it would be a really huge flowchart, right? And so, so that is not a common thing. Although when you talk about other types of programming, like really advanced programming, like like parallel programming, there's something called the computational graph, and that's a graph. It's in a sense similar to this, only with a little bit more complexity. So at that point, some people see an advantage in flowcharting. Really, it's something that you will determine as you gain experience whether it is something you want to pursue or not. But it's certainly the standard approach, so we're gonna follow that. So remember, then we were doing the problem, personal information. Design a program that displays the following information. So we're gonna display your name, your address, and all of that. So remember, when we're doing a flow chart, the first thing we do is the indication of where we start. So, we do start there. And we use this kind of symbol, like an ellipse. Okay. All right, and then after that, we set that we have the parallelogram, which is for inputs and outputs from and to the user, right, or the screen. And so in this case, we want to display first your name, right? So display. So let's say that the name is Jack Shepard. So then you're going to do display. Display. Notice in double quotes, because you want to get into the habit that when anything is a string literal, it should always be in the code in double quotes. Okay, and so we do that, we do that, we do that, and that's it. All right, and then we have, a little line right there to connect them. We do the next one. We're going to now display the address. So we're going to say display, what is it? 131 Evergreen Terrace. I can't remember. Or let's just use the one in the book, actually. Let me be consistent. So in the book, it is 1, 2, 3. Lost Lane. It's even funnier. Lost Lane. All right, so that's another parallelogram. Okay. And then we have the next one is, if you're following along in the book, it's on page 77. The next one is display the city and the zip code. So then we're going to do another one. See, this is very simple. So then this keyword display, Boston, Massachusetts, May. I don't know the zip code for. Okay, and then like that. Now notice here we ran out of room, so there's a couple of suggestions you can use. One is to simply say A, and it's like a linking point, and then now you start A over here, and now okay, that's, there's a connection there. And so the next one would be the phone number. So you're going to say display, and then 704-555 1212. Double quote. Oops. And I'm using, notice I'm using here the wrong symbol. I should be using the parallelogram. It's the book. Okay. Do that more correct. Okay, and then make, I want to make sure that's connected just to be more clear. And then finally, what's your major? Display. And then you're going to say computer information technology. Okay, and so you can see it, very simple, pretty straightforward. And then finally, that's all the problem wanted. So the last thing is to make sure that we end the, the flow chart. So this is the flow chart. And that's literally what you will have to do in your homework assignment for every problem that I give you. At least in the first few chapters, we're going to be doing flow charts. At some point, the code gets complex, more complex, and I think it'll become less practical to be doing. So we might just focus on certain functions and do the flow chart for those. We might do that. All right, but you can see here, you've completed the flow chart. Very good. So now that you've completed the flow chart, we're going to move on to the pseudocode, okay? Are there any questions about what I just did? Any questions? Yeah, go ahead, please. Somebody wrote something? Okay. Sorry, sometimes it takes me a little while to get to the chat. Yeah, so this is if you're following along in the book, in your logic book, it would be problem, chapter 2, problem 1 in programming exercises, page 77, okay? I'm just sometimes I'll be grabbing problems from a lot of places though. As I said, from the homework, I will always give you the problems that I want you to do. All right, any other questions?
It's not really a question, but it is a comment because someone did ask about the book. If you're using the 5th edition of the book, like I am using, because that's the one that was displayed when I was getting books. So far, it seems they haven't changed like any of the exercises, and it's on page 98 instead.
Oh, okay, okay. So, okay.
So there's a slight difference there.
Change all the time. Like I have slides from chapter 3 and, so that's why I'm not making these books required and I'm going to always give you the problems, okay? So that way, regardless of what version of book you have, the theory should be pretty much in there, okay? And then the problems, I will give you the problem that I'm doing, okay? That's the best thing I can think of. So you don't have to pay $100 and I don't know how much for that really expensive book.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Any other questions, guys? All right, great. So, all right. So we did the flow chart. Very easy, as you can see. Very, very, very straightforward. So now what I'm going to do is, as I said, I want to do the Python code. I'm going to show you 3 ways, I guess, that we can do this in Anaconda. One is the Jupyter. And I like this problem because this problem is so easy that it actually gives us a chance to just try it out in the 3 editors that we have. So the Jupyter Notebook for sure. But also today, I want to show you what is called the Anaconda Prompt. And you all have that. All right, so there's another question. The lectures are being recorded, right? So, right, guys? Are they? You should all have a little icon. Somebody's asking.
Yeah. It says recording.
Yeah. So it is being recorded. Okay. I'll post a video on YouTube as I've been doing in the channel. You can subscribe to it, and that way it'll notify you immediately. Otherwise, just wait until I post. Usually takes me about a day. And then, what was I saying? So the Jupyter Notebook, I'm also going to show you the Anaconda Prompt. And then just really quickly, Spider, a little bit more complex, more powerful too. So we'll take a look at that. It's really just some print statements. But anyway, so before we get to the code and writing it, we are going to take a look at the pseudo code. So I had done the flowchart, now the pseudo code. And what's the keyword that for this pseudo code? Who can tell me? So we're printing out things, right? So the keyword is display. Okay, so I'm gonna do, I'm gonna proceed to just write it, that's how it works. So remember, it's, when you're writing a program, it's just statements. One line of code, right? Do one line of code, then another line of code, then another line of code, and so on. So in this case, I'm gonna do display, and then Jack Shepherd. Okay, and then another display, and that's gonna be, I think it's 1, 2, 3, lost lane, and then it's gonna be display, and then Boston, Massachusetts, and then a zip code placeholder there. And then finally, we have two things. So we have display, 704 555 1212, and then display, computer information technology. All right, and that's your pseudocode right there. That's it. You're done. And it is that simple. Obviously, other ones will have a little bit more to it, but that's what pseudocode is. You kind of wrote the logic. Remember, it's pretty sequential. So, I'm going to draw this and then erase it, but, sequential. That's what that means, that each statement is performed one at a time. Okay, so you perform this, the first statement, then the next statement, then the next statement, and so on. Let me just write over here, and this is the pseudocode. So this is what you would have to do in your lab report. They said in Word or whatever, you type this up. Are there any questions about this one? Okay, it seems
all of this is going to be in Word, right?
Sorry, say that again?
All of this is going to be in the Word document?
You can totally do this in Word. So Word, I don't know if you've done this before in Word, but Word has, in the insert, you can add shapes, and then you can just type this up as text, right? It's really, so that's a good medium. And then you send your report. Yes. It's the easiest one. There's also Google Docs. I mean, you can do that, but I'm not going to create an account and have you guys share your homework that way, right? So Google has that, and I don't, we're gonna take the approach that all homework assignment needs to be submitted through Brightspace. So you'd have to, from your Google Docs, export and create files. Anyway, I just don't see the point of doing that. I think you all have Word from the university anyway, so think you should all have a license from the university. So yeah, just use Word. All right, so now let's think about the code. So we did this one as well. We're done. And now let's explore these individual ones. So the first one, I'm just going to call up the Jupyter Notebook and I'm going to perform the same thing. So remember, you go to the Start button in your Windows computer, and then you will pick, if you go to the Start menu, you need to look, or in the little text box that says type here to search, you will need to type Jupyter Notebook, right? And so we're going to do that. So I did it, and I need to share my screen with you guys. So I'm going to share that. Give me a second. Here it is. All right, so you should be seeing the Jupyter Notebook there. Browser, right? So it opens it. And now I'm going to go ahead, remember, and I'm just going to click New Python 3. So it creates this little prompt. And then you can say, go to cell type, markdown. And now this is going to be, you can say, for instance, chapter 2, or, and then, problem. Because really that's what I'm going to say, from the homework I did. Or you could say also programming exercises, because that's really what this is. Programming exercises. And then problem 1. Problem 1.
When you first opened up Jupyter Notebook, can you show us how you got to that spot again, please?
Sure, yeah. So let me just finish here. So let me run. And there you go. So now you kind of documented this. Okay, so I need to do that, I need to share. Let me save this and start over. Okay, so hold on. I'm going to save. I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call this chapter 2 lab. I'm going to save it. Okay, so let me close this. Right. So I need to share my entire screen, I think. Okay, so you should be seeing my screen, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so what I did is I clicked on Start, and then I have a lot of programs here, and then I scroll down to the one that says Jupyter Notebook, this one. And then you click on that, and then it opens basically this like, it's a browse file browser. I have all my files on desktop. I click on desktop, and then I created a folder called 140 so that I can just keep track of everything that I'm doing. Make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, great. And that's it. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. You saw me save the file, so then I can click on it, and there it is. I have it. Chapter 2, Programming Exercises, Problem 1. So that way you can, document everything that you're doing. This is another way. And the advantage of this is I can always, especially if you have problems, right, in your code or logic, me or the teaching assistant, Mr. Mitch Burke, you can just show us what you have and we can run it right there and say, oh, okay, I see where your logic is going. Okay, so now, so now let's solve it. pretty easy. So instead of the word display, what do I have to use here?
You use print.
Print, right? That's it. That's pretty much it. So I'm going to use print. And I'm going to say, you know, notice the double quotes. I'm going to say Jack Shepherd. Like that. See that? And then, you know, and that's the great thing about coding, right? You can reuse things. And then I'm just going to say here, 1, 2, 3, lost lane, right? And then I'm going to say Boston, Massachusetts. And then I'm going to say a number, phone number, 704 555 1212. And then your major computer information technology. Okay, and that's pretty much it. And so now what do we do?
Hit run.
Hit run. There you go. Save it. That's it. You know, it is that simple, right? It is that simple with your Jupyter notebooks, but now you're documenting things. For those of you that, you know, that really want to just do everything in the notebook, you can always import an image into the notebook. And so that way, if you did a flow chart on a, you know, like an image figure, you can import it here. Okay, but you don't have to do that. Another thing I'm going to show you guys how to do, just I guess really quickly, just for completion here, is I'm going to bring up Word. Are you guys seeing Word?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do.
Okay. So if you wanted to do the flow chart here in Word, all you have to do is you go to Insert here, and Insert has Shapes. So you click on Shapes, and there you have it. You have a lot of shapes that you can choose to use, you know, for like flow charting. So you know, you can have, let's say this symbol. And there you have that symbol, and you can change the color, remove the color, etc. Then you can do, okay, so more shapes. You can do in the flow chart. We can do like a parallelogram. You have it there. You can make it however you want. You can move it. You'll make it really nice. And then you can just, you know, copy paste that one. So it's copy, right? And so now we have 5. Oops. You guys see that? Obviously, you know, make it better. I don't want to waste too much time on this, but something like that. And then down here, and then you can copy this one too. And then you can do that, right? And you can also, if you don't know, you can always format shape, so fill, no fill. See that? So probably a little better. You can do that for all the images. Go to insert here, shapes. and insert a text box. Make it smaller. Put the text box in there. Type start. You can always center it. Right? And then you can always align. Right, and you know, you can do a lot of things with it. I'm sure you guys have done this or can figure it out really easily. The last thing, obviously, would be to add the arrows. And there you go. So that way, you know, you can create your flowcharts pretty quickly, actually, with Word. Pretty efficient. Are there any questions about this?
Yeah. So the school will give us free Word, right?
I believe so. It should be. You know, I've never. They give you free VMware, so I assume you should be able to get free Word. Yes.
I believe there is a free Word, but I tried it and it didn't work properly on my machine. So
Really?
I just use Google Docs. Yeah, it said something like that my key had expired.
Oh, really?
And this
Yeah,
was like I tried it. It was
Well, here's the
2
thing.
falls
Like,
ago.
in our lab, so here's the thing that's a very interesting question, because I am almost certain that in our labs, like if we would be in the lab, right, in the classroom, and it's installed in the computers. Word should be installed there, so you should be able to use Word. So I assume then they have a solution for, you know, given this situation. Has anyone tried to get Word from the university? Guys?
Like I tried, and it says like a new license was given to me, but it's still showing no app. So they saying I guess I got to contact IT department.
Yeah, you might want to send an email to Donna Alt. She's the IT person for the CIT department, and ask her basically about Word. I mean, I guess it's a question I've never had before, because I believe we have it in our labs, right? It should be there. So
Yeah, and our student emails are linked to a Microsoft account. So it said for me that the code had expired and to contact your administrator.
yeah, definitely send an email to Donna. I hadn't even thought about this, to be honest. I will have to ask them about it. Otherwise, I guess Google Docs is free, and it must have a similar Word type of a situation.
I can actually answer this question for everyone. I work in the IT department for our school, actually, as a student worker.
Yeah, great.
So
what's the going on
the process is the instructor will have to send an email to Donna saying that you request a VDI access for the class. And then you'll have to gather everyone's usernames, put them on an Excel file, attach it to the ticket, and then that way someone will be able to go into the ticket, take the names, and then put them in the VDI group. So let's say whatever the lab is in the Powers building. So we'll have a certain time frame of when we can use those computers. So then after everyone's names are attached to the ticket, someone will take them and then put them in the VDI security group. And then that way we'll be able to access like VPN into the computer and use all the programs that the computer has.
Wow, so they have to do all of that. They literally have to VPN just to get Word.
Right. Yeah. You have to VPN.
So that's so weird.
VDI
that's a lot of.
That seems like, oh geez.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. So, this is such a simple thing to create flowcharts that we may just, I don't even know if it's worth doing all of that. But I will certainly.
I'd like to add, just like Word, you can add objects to make the flowcharts. It's essentially the same layout. in
Google Docs?
Google Docs to do it, and it
Okay.
works very easily.
Yeah, so we may just do that then. I don't, I don't want to just like start playing with that right now. But I'll have a video next week on how to do this with Google Docs, I guess. If you do have Word, though, for those of you that do have Word at home, just use Word. If you don't, we'll find others. There's something called Raptor, and there's a few other things. So, all right, so don't worry about it. I mean, this should be trivial. So, it's not something that we need to worry about. All right, great comments, though, and I appreciate the person from IT that jumped in there. All right, so are there any other questions or comments? All right, so given that, we did the Jupyter Notebook, I believe, right? Yeah, we did that. Are you guys seeing my Jupyter Notebook right now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Now let's try okay, so let me go back to sharing. The whiteboard. Okay. So we have done the Jupyter Notebook. Now we're going to explore this one, the Anaconda Prompt. Okay. And what that is basically the terminal in Windows. Okay. So to get to that, click on Start. Are you guys seeing the Start? Yeah.
We
No.
see your
Okay. Yeah.
like
No,
the chapter 2 thing steps at.
Yeah. I keep forgetting to. Now I'm sharing the full screen. Now you should be seeing the Start button.
yeah, we see it now.
Yeah, click on expand there or type in the type here to search and just type Anaconda Prompt. So click on that and it'll open basically the Windows DOS or however you want to call it prompt. But it's really the Anaconda. We're really in Anaconda. And so Anaconda basically is an environment management package. So what that means is that you can literally create multiple environments, right? You could create an environment that you just called 140 environment. And in that 140 environment, you have a certain set of programs. The reason being that there's so many versions of everything. Every library in Python, it might be version 3.5 or 3.7 or 3.6. And sometimes something that you wrote in 3.7 does not work in 3.5. And so what you do there is that you always create these environments so that you only have, exactly which libraries you have where for that particular program. Now I said that, you don't have to worry about that at all for this class. That's a more advanced topic we'll learn about in other classes, but I just wanted to stress that because here it says base, and so that's really like the base environment that we're going to be using, okay? All right, and then what I'm going to do is, if you notice, I type Python there and I hit enter, and when I do that, it brings up what is called the Python interpreter. So now we are literally in Python itself, okay? And so we can also try this one. I could also run a script from here. So I could have just, if I wanted to run a script, I just have to figure out where I am. Like I would have to navigate to my desktop, right? So I would have to navigate as you do, CD desktop, and then, find the folder. I'm not going to do that right now, but, you do that. And then imagine there you have now it's not going to run a Jupyter Notebook per se, but you would have a Python script. So for instance, we'll look at that in another class, in another lesson in the future. Right now, I'm just kind of throwing it out there that you could do like my script.py, right? And then usually the extension py is saved for all your Python scripts. Right, so we could have done that as a script, but I'm not showing that today. Today, I just want to show you the Python interpreter. So I hit Python and I'm there. So this is kind of in a way similar to this, right? So this is the Python interpreter too. It's really like, but this one is a nicer one because you can just type a lot of code more easily. Here, it's more about a one-line kind of thing, although you can write more lines. So imagine I want to write the previous program. So I'm going to do print. And then what was it? It was print Jack Shepherd. Now notice the syntax, oops, sorry, is still the same. And I just do Jack Shepherd. All right, hit enter, and there it is. You guys see that, guys? Which one do you like better? Do you like the IPython here, or do you like the command prompt?
The Jupyter.
Yeah, Jupyter.
It's a little, yeah, it's a little bit, you know, more personal. All right.
Yeah, the IPython feels like I'm gonna mess something up and like make my computer explode. I know I won't, but it feels like that.
It just feels strange. I know how you feel. It's probably that you feel that this is simpler. There's less to worry about. The other thing is like the Jupyter might feel like, why all this stuff? It just makes it more complexity that could break. I understand. It's, you know, these are just tools. At the end of the day, as I said, you're going to converge to whatever you feel you like the most. Okay. All right. So my job is really just to show you all the options. And so here we implemented, you know, Jack Shepherd. Then notice I can do an up arrow here. No, did you see what I just did? Up arrow is in the keyboard where you have the little arrows to the left, to the right, going down, going up. It's also the key that has the keyword page up. So that's called an up arrow. And so what I did is basically bring up the previous code. And now I'm going to put in the address. So it's going to be 1, 2. I'm not going to do it for everything. I think you get the idea. But right, and so I do 1, 2, 3 lost lane there, and then I'm going to hit enter, and so on. Does this make sense, guys? Are there any questions about the Python interpreter? Fun, right? So no questions. Okay, so let's do then the third one, which is Spider. So I'm going to exit out of here. Usually I like to exit out of the Python, and to exit, you just type exit, you know, like the exit function. You know, so just do that. And now you're back to the base environment of your Anaconda. And as I said, you know, it's for those of you that have used Linux, it's like a Linux terminal only in Windows. It doesn't have the Linux commands, unfortunately. I don't know why Windows doesn't just make those also work here. I believe they do work in the other one though, in the other shell, PowerShell. Sorry. All right, so let's exit out of here. And now the other option that you can try, this one's a little bit more complicated right now, but more powerful. All right, and it should be Spider. So if you click on Spider, are you guys seeing it loading, Spider, right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is also, you know, as you can see, this is also the environment, a little bit more complex, but you try it if you want. I usually just program it on my Mac. So I use Xcode, which I really prefer, but you know, there's, you know, a lot of options here. So this one is pretty simple as well. As you can see, you know, you can type code here, run it, and you see basically the output here. So this is the console, if you will, and you're seeing your you know, hello. So if I was writing the other thing, print, and it provides, you know, auto completion. It provides a lot of help on what you're doing. So just a lot of options there. Okay, so print Jack Shepherd. And there you go. So hello, Jack Shepherd. You can see that the output here. in the console, which is this window over here. There's, you know, quite a lot of information and a lot more tools. It's great for debugging and so on. And then it's got, you know, your basic save, and so you can always save to the folder of your interest, of your choice. That's you know, for now, I'm not going to be using Spider that much, although if you want to use it, you know, feel free to explore all these options. Okay? Are there any questions about this one? Okay, so it seems like there's no questions. All right, so I'm going to close this and I'm going to go back to, I'm going to leave the Jupyter Notebook open because now we're going to do problem 2, and so I'm going to save this, make sure I don't lose it, and then let me switch back to the whiteboard. All right, great. So we've completed then, you know, kind of a quick overview of a lot of tools that we have available: Jupyter Notebook, Anaconda Prompt, Spider. We did the pseudo code, we did the flowchart, and we did the Python code, and that's pretty much what you would do in this class. Okay, that's really how it's gonna work. Now let's go ahead and do another problem. So I'm just going to pick, we've done 2.1. All right, so let's pick another one. I'm going to do the land calculation. That's the one I'm going to do now. All right, so let's do the land calculation. All right, so this problem says, and this is going to be another problem. Chapter 2, inputs, outputs. And this is problem 3 of the programming exercises. All right, problem 3. All right, so what we have to do now is, we're going to follow the same procedure, right? Same procedure. We're going to, think of a flow chart. Then we're going to think of the pseudo code. And then we're going to think of code. Okay, so we kind of follow that same pipeline. So this one is about land calculation. All right, so let's read through the problem. So it says 1 acre of land is equivalent to 43,560 square feet. 43,560 square feet. So design a program that asks the user to enter the total square feet in a tract of land and calculates the number of acres in that tract. So we're going to basically convert feet to acres. And so it gives us a hint that to do that, we divide the amount entered by 43,560 to get the number of acres. Okay, so that's our basic approach here. All right, so how do we do that? Let's start with, we need to think about this, so maybe start with the flow chart. So we do start, right? And then after that, we're gonna have to store data, right? We're gonna have to store data. So that's not a parallelogram, but a rectangle, because it indicates a procedure that you have to do. In this case, a statement to set, or to declare, sorry. So we're going to declare real. And then now you can come up with whatever variable names you want. So let's call one of the variables tract size, comma, and acres. Okay, and so given that, then now we've declared the variables, and we're going to do, there's one value in here that's not really a variable, it's kind of set in stone, and that is how many square feet you have per acre. So we can declare that as a constant integer because it's not a real number, right? And then we say square feet per acre equal 43,560. This is also a rectangle because these are declarations or things that you're setting in the program. Then after that, we get into the flow. Once that we have our variables, once we have our constant, the next step is to ask or to display a message to the user, giving him instructions, or her. So here we're going to say display enter the number of square feet in the tract. Now remember, this is this symbol, a parallelogram, like that. Then notice here, I'm just gonna say, I can do that. I didn't have room for it to add the little A symbol, so I can just do that as well. I mean, I'll understand. And then now we continue. So the next step is to get the tract size, right? So if I want to get the tract size, that's an input. So what symbol do I use? What's the shape of this?
Like
You use a
ellipse?
parallelogram.
Yeah, a parallelogram, right? And I'm going to say what? Input, that's the reserved word, input tract size. Oops. And we have a symbol like that. Here we go. And then, do we have all the variables that we need now? All the inputs, everything? We do, right? Because we have the tract size, we have the constant, and now we just have to calculate the operation there, do the equation, and get the result, which is acres. And so here we have another process now where we're going to say set acres equal to, and then remember, this is the assignment statement. We're going to assign in there. And when I said set acres tract size divided, which tract size is the input you provided. So maybe your property is half an acre, right? So half an acre would be whatever, because you're entering design a program that asks the user to enter the total square feet in a tract. So you're entering square feet. And here you say it, enter the number of square feet in the tract. So once you have that in square feet, you're going to set acres tract size divided by, and then the constant. This is the constant that we created, square feet. So we're just going to say square feet per acre. Now, make sure that these things are usually case sensitive. So make sure that if you use lowercase here, you should be using uppercase here. So maybe when I'm writing, I won't be as disciplined in that, but certainly when I'm writing the code, I'll have to, because otherwise it won't work. Okay, so that's a rectangle, given that it's the calculation that needs to happen in the computer. Once you have your result here, notice I'm going to do this. Okay. Now we can print out the results simply. So I'm going to say display the size of that tract. So display in the messages, the size of that tract is, and then leave a space, probably double quotes, comma, right? And then just say acres, which is the variable acres, this one, right? It's that one. Okay, and then another comma, and then double quote, space, acres. So remember, this operation is called concatenation. We're concatenating two string literals and a variable, okay? And then that's a display message, so that's a parallelogram. And there you go. See that? Once I've completed that, I am done with my program. Does this make sense, guys? Are there any questions about this flowchart?
Yeah, so for the last one, for the display, the size of the track is,
Yes.
you put a double quotation, comma, acres, and then you put another double quotation for
Yes.
the say, okay.
So that, that's a good question. What I'm doing here is I have this double quote that starts here and ends here, right? There's a comma there, and then there's this double quote and double quote. So let's actually blow that up over here. So what I'm doing is I'm taking A, B, and C. Think of three things. I'm taking three things and I'm piecing together a string. So one piece, A, double quotes, is the size of that. Okay, I'm gonna need more room here. Of that tract is, and a space. Notice I did that, right? That's one string. Then I have an actual variable, but the variable, so this is called, by the way, a string literal. We covered this in the lecture. It's just basically when in the code itself, you just write text, free text. And so you just have to put it in double quotes and it becomes what is called a string literal. Then I have B, which is just acres. But B contains a value, right, which would be converted into a string, either explicitly or implicitly, right? Because when we do the calculation for acres, at first it'll be a float. But because this is pseudocode, we don't really have to worry about that yet. So we really just, you'll see when I translate this to Python how that works because of the syntax. But right now, logically speaking, we're just doing this. And then C will be another string literal, which in that case was just the word acres. Notice I leave a space, and so double quote. You see that? So I have a string literal here, and this is a string, or this is a variable, let's just say right now, but it has to be a string variable eventually. So if you notice, if we go back to the code, I took The size of the tract, that's one. Acres is another one. And the variable is another one. In the function, I have to separate them or concatenate them by commas. Okay, and so, you know, what I'm doing there is I put a comma, and the display pseudocode keyword knows how to concatenate those. The print function also has similar behavior, the print function in Python. Is this clear?
Yeah, I got it.
Great. All right, so in this one's great because we have inputs too, so it should be an interesting one. So we've done, what have we done? We've done the flowchart. Okay, so now let's proceed and write the code, the pseudocode, right? Now, notice here I'm going to add comments as well. So the comments in Python would be like that. In the book, for the pseudocode approach is just to write 2 forward slashes. And so we're going to say declare, you know, declare variables. When you do this, the interpreter, the editor, whatever, will the compiler will ignore whatever you write that starts with the comment symbol. Okay. But then now we really do want to declare the variable. So I'm going to say declare real, and then you declare tract size, comma, acres. So you're going to declare those. All right. Then I'm not going to add all the comments. You can always add more comments. So I'm just going to say, oops. I'm going to say constant integer square feet per acre. And we're just going to say that it is equal to 43,560. Do you see that, guys? Then after that, there's display. And now we say enter the number of square feet in the tract. Okay. So now we have to do the input. So I'm going to do input tract size. That's this variable here. So tract size. Okay. And then we have the set function, set, that will take acres, right? We're going to assign. Remember, so assign means something like this, right? But the symbol is an equal statement, an equal sign. So I'm going to set acres, tract size divided by square feet per acre. Okay. And then the final step is to do display the size. And now here, you know, somebody had that question, the size of that, I'm going to try to fit everything in one line, of that tract is, notice the space, double quote, comma, acres, comma, double quote space, acres. Maybe a period, and that's it. You see that? This is your pseudocode. for this problem. Are there any questions about this one? All clear? Are you guys still there?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
here.
Yep.
Show me signs of life there every now and then. All right, so now, great. So the last part is we're gonna go back to our Jupyter Notebook. And so this is what you have to do in your homework assignment. So I think you get now the picture, you know, every problem, just to kind of summarize, you know, problem 3, chapter, you know, figure, you know, put the numbers there and everything. You know, have your, this would be, I would call it think, right? You know, write down some notes, make a sense of what the problem is, you know, load it in your mind. Then after that, you know, draw out the flow chart. I guess we're going to be using Google Docs for that. Just remember, you need to export it somehow, maybe as a PDF or as a figure if you can, and then add it to your, you know, your report. Then, you know, I explained this to someone, and then you do the pseudo code, right? So you'll do this, the pseudo code, right? And then after that, we're going to do the code. And what you do with the code here, as I said, do it in any. This time, I'm only going to do it in the notebook, the Jupyter Notebook. And you can always just take screenshots of the Jupyter Notebook and attach that to your report. However, if you want to attach, as I said at the beginning of the class today, if you want to put the actual IPython notebook in there, zip it, that's fine. I can run it, but otherwise just put a screenshot in your report. I definitely do need to see that the code did run, okay? You always need to provide some evidence that is convincing that, you know, you got it to work. All right, so let's go ahead and switch over to the Jupyter Notebook. I need to share the screen. All right, or actually this time around, let's try, because this is pretty sequential actually. Let's try, something else actually. Let's try something that I haven't shown you. So let's see. I need to go share screen. Okay, so you should be seeing my screen. Let's now, so you guys are seeing my folder, correct? ITS 140?
Yes.
Okay, so another thing you could do is you could create a script here, text document, give it an extension .py, okay? Call it whatever you want. So this one would be chapter 2, problem 3 of the programming exercise. All right, so we're going to try that one. And then let's just open WordPad for now. All right, and we open it in a little WordPad. Any editor is fine. Any editor is fine. So now, you know, let's do print. This is another way of trying things. So let's do print hello world. Okay, so we created this file. Okay, save it, close it. Now I'm going to go to the the Anaconda prompt. I open it. I'm going to navigate to desktop. I'm there. And I'm going to navigate to, I want to see. There's my ITS 140 folder. So I'm going to navigate into that. Okay, and if I take a look at it, there's my file, ch2 problem 3, right? So let's try running it from here. So Python, and there you go. Do you see what I just did, guys? Guys?
Yeah.
So it's, you know, I guess I forgot that, you know, I could have shown this as well. So this is yet another way of running your Python code. You can always just create an editor in any editor that you want, give it the extension py, right? And then, you know, give it a name, and then you can call the program. So now we can modify it a little bit more. So I don't know if I left it. No, it's, I can close this. So now, let's go back to the code here. All right. And we're going to now implement this in Python. So we're going to do, so we need some variables. So the interesting about Python is you don't actually have to declare variables. We can just initialize them. So I'm going to say track size equal and I'm going to say 0.0. And the reason why I do 0.0 is I want to indicate that, you know, this could be float, right? The track size could in some way, because it is, track size is square feet. Track size, yeah, so is in square feet. Then I can also do acres, 0.0, and that's basically how I declare a variable in Python. I don't have to give it the data type, but I do initialize it. Then after that, we can create also square feet. Notice here now, I need to be very consistent with the uppercase and lowercase. So that becomes important. So now I'm going to do square feet. Now the convention is that a constant is always typed in uppercase. So I'm going to do square feet per acre. And this one can be an integer if I want to, I guess, since I already specified the other ones as string, as float. All right, so 43,560. Okay. Now I'm going to say a print statement, print in double quotes, and a message that says, enter the number of square feet in the tract. The number of square feet in the tract. Okay, I have my print statement there. Now I need an input. So the function in Python is input, right? And I'm going to say, oh, actually, I already said that. So just going to use the input function. This will assign the value, and it's going to store it in a variable. Which variable should I use here?
Track size.
Track size, exactly. So I'm going to do track. And notice here, if I do this, you know, that's not good, right? It has to be the same case. So it's going to be track uppercase S size because that's the name that I declared. So that will allow us to get an input there. And then I'm going to do the operation, the actual calculation. So here, notice we don't have to use the word set anymore. You know, we can just do the operation. So I'm going to do acres and assign to it track size divided by, and then now instead of, sometimes it's better just to copy so you don't have to make an error in typing, square feet per acre. And then finally, we just have to display our results. So we're going to do, you know, somebody had that question, you know, let's try double quote, comma, the result is acres, comma, and then double quote. So 2 string literals and a variable. So here, I'm going to type, what does it say? The size of the tract is, so the size of the tract is, notice the space there, acres, space, and then the word acres again. Dot. Do you see that? And that should be my program there. Okay, and now, if you want to add a comment, remember I talked about that. In Python, you type, you know, 1 or 2, however many, let's just type 1 and just say chapter 2 problem 3 of the programming exercises. Okay, and so, you know, we try that. So now I'm going to go ahead and save my file, save it. Okay, and now I'm going to try to run it. So I'm go back to the prompt. You guys seeing the prompt now?
Yes.
Okay. So if you're seeing the prompt, then now Python, and then I call that file, chapter 2, problem 3. Hit run. Notice that it's executing and it's asking me enter the number of square feet in the tract. So I know that the number of square feet should be, you know, it's going to convert it to acres, right? So I'm going to try like 40,000 like that. And it gave me an error. You see that? So the pseudocode was good for logic, but now I have an error. What do you think that error means? So this is what's going to happen a lot of the time, right? You're going to write your code and boom, you get an error. So how do you go about dealing with this? Well, it provides, usually you'll see something, a little keyword that says trace back, right? And it's going to say in line 13, okay, in line 13, so you have to count. So it's this line here. You have an error, okay, all right. And what is the error? I can already tell what the error is. It's something here. Unsupported operand.
You didn't add an S?
I'm sorry, say that again?
I thought because you didn't add an S to acres.
Did I not? No, it's not a variable. It's not a variable because square feet per acre is the same as here. That's why I actually copied it so that I didn't have an error. It's a more subtle error. Who can tell me what it is? And notice here it's giving you type error, unsupported operand for string versus int. So what do you think that means?
Is it taking tract size as a string?
Yes, exactly. What
Okay,
happens,
that's what it's doing.
That's exactly what it's doing. So the input function, what the input function does is that whatever it reads as a it reads it as a string. So what do you have to do? You have to typecast it to a number as well. So for instance, square feet per acre, let's say that I just do .0 here, right? Dot 0. Notice that I initialized track size as a float. But what happened is Python changed that when the input function returned a string. So it just said, okay, it was a float, but now it is a string. And so what I have to do is I have to convert this to, oops, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Track size. I just have to do what is called, and I'm going to add a comment here so it's obvious, £. This is a perfect place for a comment. I'm going to say typecasting. Okay. Input reads as string. Another comment. Therefore, you don't have to be so wordy, but therefore, or just say, don't be so just say typecasting input reads as string, changed or converted to a number with, and then you just have to think about the functions that you have available. So there's a function called int that will convert it to an int. There's float, right, that will convert it to float. So all you have to do is these functions basically take in track size and convert it. So it'll take it from a string to a integer. So now I'm going to try int. Do you see that, guys? Does this make sense?
Yeah, it does. I have a question. I have a quick question though.
Yeah, go ahead. Please.
So if you were, for the track size in acres for your variables, if you were to declare them as floats, how would the syntax for that work? Because I just did float and then the variable name equals 0.0, and I try to run it once it's done, and it says that there's a syntax error.
Which one did you declare as float? Say that again.
Do you want me to share my screen?
Just let me run this. Let me run this, and
okay.
I'll take a look at yours. All right. So
okay.
Let's do that. So let me finish this one. Save it. Okay. So I converted it. So it's no longer string. So we should not see that error, right? So now I'm gonna hit this. Enter the square feet in the track. So I'm gonna say 40,000 roughly, and there it is. So the size of the track is 0.918273 and so on acres. Is that about right? What would you guys say about that?
It's technically the right answer, but it looks really informal.
It looks really informal. Why? Because of the really long number? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, because of the trailing decimal. How do you expect your user to be able to read that and understand?
Right. So if we get into format strings, that's way too many topics for such a basic thing. So I don't want to get into format strings right now, but just be aware that there is a way in Python that I could then say, I'll just kind of hint at it right now, but it's something like dot format, and then you specify the actual formatting, okay? But for now, let's leave it here at the fact that I piece together 3 strings. I piece together this one with this one and this one, and notice that the answer was the acres, right? And the only thing that, notice that the pseudocode and the real code, the real code gets real, right? So you have to take into account certain things. Like I added this comment, and now you have this situation. But I was able to get the right answer, right? So if I run, let me just save it again. And I'm going to run it. And this time I'm going to enter 43,540. 40, or actually 43 flat should be good. 43 flat. And notice that, what do you notice? that before it was 0.91, right? 0.91, now it is 0.98. So it is working fine because 43,000 is very close to 43,560. So it doesn't make sense that it's getting close to that 1 acre. So before we go to her question, I just want to wrap up this problem. Are there any questions about anything that I did? This is the basic pipeline that we're going to follow this semester for a lot of these problems.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. So when you put it just made Python read track size as an integer instead of a string. That's how the thing went, right?
Which one? This statement here, you mean?
Because at first it took track size as a string, so that's why
right.
we got the first
The
error.
input function, which is similar to what the pseudocode says, calls an input by default, reads everything as a string. Yes. But
Yes.
you can't do a math operation with strings, right? You know, it just doesn't know what it is, even though it is a number. So what you do then is, that's why I wrote this note. We're going to use something called typecasting. Input reads a string, but we convert it to a number with functions like int and float. And so that then gives us our result.
All right.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, do the int stand for integer? Did it make it?
That's right. It's a function. This is a function that stands for integer. So it takes, so that function knows, okay, now I'm going to get a string, but if that string is an actual number, I can just convert it to the data type int. Yes, that is correct.
Okay, I got it.
Got it? Yeah. Okay, are there any other questions about this? All right, if there are no questions, then we're gonna look at her problem. And just before I forget, remember, I'm going to be posting a homework assignment tonight, today sometime, and that homework assignment is just gonna say which problems you need to do, but you need to do them like this, okay, guys? And just make sure you provide screenshots such as this one. Or if you do it in a Jupyter Notebook, wherever you do it, provide please screenshots as well as, you know, the flowchart, the pseudocode, the Python code. All right, so now that I've said all of this, what was your name again? Sorry.
My name is Emily Barnes.
Emily, yeah, Emily. All right, Emily. So what did you want to do? You wanted to share your screen, right? That's what you said.
Yeah, to help better explain what's going on.
Yeah, give me a sec. Give me a sec. Okay, so I stopped sharing my screen. Can you share your screen now?
I'm gonna click the button. Host disabled participant screen sharing. That's the error I got.
All right, so I need to probably do something here. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to. Can you describe it, Emily? I don't know how to enable this right now.
I'll go ahead and type it out exactly how I have it in chat.
Okay, yeah, do that. That actually works. Yeah, please.
All right.
Okay, that's a good one. Yeah, just type it in the chat. I'll figure out how to do
Actually,
that.
I'll go ahead and copy and paste everything I have.
Yeah, that should work. That should work. There is a feature for sharing. I don't know where I need to. I think I need to enable it when I get out of this.
All right. Let me go ahead and post it.
Okay, so this is
So
your.
yes, I very heavily comment everything because I've taken former programming classes and I understand how everything works. So when you see for the declare two float variables, track size in acres, when I run this whole code, it stops immediately at the variables and it says file line 49 syntax error, invalid syntax for tract size specifically.
You don't have to declare variables in Python. So are you seeing the document that I have, the file? I copied your code, I think, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to do this. Just by doing this, it takes care of it. So that's one thing in Python, you never have to declare I know, when you're coming from,
it feels so weird.
I get that completely. I completely understand that. And you will take C and C++ and a whole bunch of other classes where you have to declare variables. And when we do the pseudo code, I will always declare the variables. But in Python, you just don't have to do that.
Okay.
Ever. And so now I'm betting that you will learn to appreciate that eventually, though. So let's see. I'm looking at your code. So the trick is, Python has these subtle things. Like the trick is, do this. You see that?
Okay.
You do those little things like that seem, not obvious, and it just completely changes everything. Now you just told it, I want this to be a float. That's why.
But you still have to. So for the constant, you still have to use the what's the suffix for constant? Is it const?
You don't have to. You just do that.
Just because it's all capitalized, it knows that it's a const.
If you wanted to explicitly set something as a constant, you mean? I usually just do this. I mean, like that. And it's not a how can I say? It's not like a thing in the interpreter. It's more of a you follow that assumption. You see that if it's capitalized, it's a constant. It's not really going to change that much. You're not typing it specifically. You see that?
Okay.
It's not necessary to do that. People do this all the time. I mean, there might be other ways of doing it more explicitly, but it's not necessary. Remember that Python is about, getting going fast, right? It's a scripting language, good for prototyping. If you were then implementing an application, you'll go with C++ for efficiency. Also remember, and I want to stress this, Python is what did I call it? It's an interface to C++. So it's written on top of C. All right, so if I look at the rest, you have this track size. Okay, you did the float here of inputs. I see what you're doing. I would not have done it like this, but that will work. And then track size, and then, okay. And then, all right, so let's run your code. There you go. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's just something that I have to get used to.
You have to get used to it. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, I have to get out of the mindset of you have to declare everything first.
Yeah, you have to
'Cause
always.
I'm watching you do it, and I'm like, what are you doing? That doesn't look good.
No, it's just, you know, it's another language. You know, it's like, it's another
Yeah.
language. What are you going to do? There you go. So you see, that's your code that I'm running. Just wanted to show that. But yeah, pretty good. I mean, we got into typecasting, probably an advanced topic, but it's good that you know it. I didn't want to get into format strings, though. That's something that I don't want to overcomplicate things right now. As I said, you will learn to appreciate Python. It'll just, you know, you haven't seen for loops and if statements yet, right? So in that, you're going to have this, no curly brackets. It's just going to be indentation, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that'll, that's
Yeah.
to get used to.
Yeah.
All right, but don't worry about it. Anyway, we are out of time. Are there any other questions at this time?
Yeah, you said you dropping the homework later tonight, right?
I am posting a homework later today, so it should definitely be. Don't wait for it. You know, just by tomorrow it'll be there. As I said, it'll just have a few problems, not too many. Different ones though, and do what I did today. Write a report, put your IPythons in there or what have you, and you will submit as a zip file on Brightspace. Got it?
Are you uploading this class video on Brightspace?
I will, not on Brightspace. I put everything on the website, remember?
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm talking about? Or no?
No.
Okay. So let me share this. So it's just easier for me. Are you looking at Brightspace right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you want to find the videos, you have to go to admin. You see an admin? I have a link called course website. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Click on that, and it takes you to a link in a website that I have for ITS 140 with a lot of instructions, including this calendar. On this calendar, I put links to the videos. So today is what? September 3rd, right? And so I'm going to be putting this video on here.
All right.
And it's linked to YouTube, so then you'll see the YouTube video. It's also searchable on YouTube if you're in the channel. So either way, but that's the video will be there.
Thank you.
Got it? All right. Any other questions? No questions? All right, guys. So you know, look for the homework tomorrow, and it'll be due on September 10th. I'll create the link on Brightspace, and otherwise, I will see you guys September 8th. Enjoy your holiday on the 7th, and that's it. So have a good weekend.
You too.
All right, thank you.